back. A little bit more. Okay, perfect. No, actually a little more still. You can never be too safe. Hey folks, Michael Landsberg here. This is Isolation Nation. The date is April the 6th. This is our 4th show. And if you're keeping track, and I am, my personal best, the streak continues 19 straight days without wearing pants with a button. Today on Isolation Nation, one of the things we're going to do is we're going to try to give you a better perspective on when to worry about your worrying. 3 guests today, and I'm pumped for all 3 of them. By the way, 1 mark on my arm, 6th day of the month. That's pretty good. I put a mark on my arm every time I'm having a bad day. So today, W. Brett Wilson will join us, entrepreneur and amazing philanthropist, one of the smartest guys I know. Also, Khush Amaria. She is a psychologist. She's with Mind Beacon, and she's the one who'll give us a better perspective on when it's time to worry. And then there's Jessica Holmes. You know that our goal is to try to bring humor and a smile to your life. We don't want it to be all serious, and Jessica Holmes is perfect to do that. By the way, did you touch the door handle?
Yeah.
Okay. Jessica Holmes, not only has she written a book, not only has she done 1 million TV shows, but apparently she watches TV as well.
All up here in my husband's head. He's a good boy. He's a good boy. What's that? He told a joke. He's the funny one. It's me. It's me. I got this from the commissary. I had to trade it for a favor. He's not real. I'm just kidding. See, that's all part of the act. The tigers was in the cage. Poof. I'm the one in the cage. Who's a magician now? Who's crazy?
Oh, that is so funny. Oh my God. I guess I don't have to ask you the question that everybody seems to ask everybody else when you meet them. They go, like if you see them on the street 10 feet away, they go, oh my God, have you seen Tiger King? Well, apparently, Jessica Holmes, you have seen it. How are you?
I'm good. Tiger King got me through the first week of this thing. Now I'm into the series.
It kind of seems indescribable to me. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it. I don't even know. How would you explain it to someone if someone said, hey, what's that show Tiger King all about? How would you explain that?
I would say it's as if all the most outlandish guests on every episode of Jerry Springer got together and opened up zoos in the southern US. That would be Tiger King. Like just each character they'd introduce, they'd be like, oh, P.S. they have 3 wives. Oh, P.S. they murdered someone. Like there's just poof, it's more information. It's like the carnival of television.
Yeah, it is for sure. And I kind of look at it also like they took some of the cast from Deliverance back in the day, maybe some from Ozark these days. They put them all together and you get Tiger King. Okay. You wrote a book called Depression, the Comedy. People know you as a comedian. People have seen your face 1 million times, making them smile. What's the issue for you with depression? How long have you suffered from it, and describe what it feels like?
Sure thing. I had postpartum depression, which was just pure anxiety around being with my kids, feeling like I wasn't good enough for them, not knowing where to begin. And then a few years later, I had just run-of-the-mill garden variety depression, if you will. And that one felt more like I just had apathy about life. I had no sense of joy anymore with the kind of activities or people that I used to hang out with. And so it was just a loss. I felt lost in life and purposeless. And to the point where for about 6 months, I had trouble getting off the sofa and didn't work for a stretch. And I have to say, for any of us who have had mental health issues, when this pandemic started, a lot of us got nervous. Will this trigger me? Will this kind of bring back some of those previous feelings I had, or mental health issues that I had? And so I've been being careful. I've been making sure to start every day with exercise, just in case. And I just think so many of us are in difficult situations right now. So I'm really glad you're doing this show and reminding people to pay attention to their mental health.
Yeah, I mean, this is a big wake up call for a lot of people. But I want to go back to what you said, because, like, I'm sitting here and I wasn't on camera, so you could see me doing this and maybe a little bit of this too. Like, oh my God, like the woman is describing me. Difficulty getting off the couch. Nothing felt good, no joy. And the thing about mental illness, and I talk about this all the time, but we all feel the same thing with depression. Every single person that I've ever spoken to who has been diagnosed with moderate to severe depression will tell you loss of the ability to experience joy, loss of self-esteem, hopelessness, and loneliness. So let's go back to number 2, loss of self-esteem. How did it affect you and your confidence and the cocky strut that you have to be a comedian?
That was the hardest part, because in my job, I was still getting hired to show up and perform, but I didn't have the confidence to try something new. I didn't have the creativity at all. And I felt like I'm nothing. I'm worthless. Why on earth are people even watching me? I'll probably never get hired again after today. Those were the types of negative things running through my head. And I learned the term ruminate, which just means you circle the same thought again and again and again. Without being able to get off of it, sort of like a broken record. And so that's something I'm very conscious of now, is working on self-esteem, working on the things that I know bring me joy and bring me purpose. And that's what I love about cognitive behavior therapy. One of the elements of that is asking, when was the last time I felt confident? When was the last time I felt energized? And then trying to just repeat those activities, get more of those types of activities in your life. And it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it does. And I'm kind of the belief that, I don't know if you can see my shirt, but what does it say, Case? I guess
for your happiness.
Yeah, fortunately I put that one on. I had one that said Jessica Holmes sucks, but I didn't wear that one today, fortunately, which would have been really
my Michael Landsberg sucks jersey. So there.
You know what? Those are a lot more sales of those than the Jessica Holmes ones, for sure. But here's my point on my shirt, is that when you struggle, as you have struggled really badly, loss of quality of life, when you struggle like that, you have to make the commitment that you will do anything to get better, no matter what it is, whether it's medication, CBT, ECT, any other 3 letters that you could put together. It's the only way to do it. When you are really, really sick, you have to say, I'll do anything to get better. And if CBT worked for you, that's awesome.
Yeah. And you know what? It's, for me, even when I recovered from depression, I still am going to work the rest of my life on my mental health. I can actually feel it if I go a few days without keeping up with exercise or positive self-talk, or like trying to limit social media. I can feel it creeping back in. And it's just something I've accepted as a part of my life, and that this is going to be, I'm in it for the long haul. But it's a pretty beautiful way to live, taking care of your mental health. There's worse things to do than go out jogging with your dog every morning and watching comedies.
It depends what kind of dog you have.
I have a mutt, a beautiful mutt. Ellie, come. Come here. She's shy. She's shy on camera. Oh, look at her. Now, I'd like to tell you the story about my fabulous dog. My therapist said to me, what will get you off the sofa? And I said, nothing. And she said, would a dog get you off the sofa? And I said, a sad dog. So she actually wrote a prescription for a sad dog.
Oh my gosh.
And tore it off and said, go home, show that to your partner, and go get yourself a sad dog. And so we got a rescue dog, and now she's my best buddy.
Oh, my dog just came back from a busy afternoon of racing around, so he's kind of sleeping over there. But I'll make sure that we get him up before this. I may have to grill up some burgers or something and rub them on myself, because that will bring him over right away. Okay, yeah. COVID-19 hit us. I guess it's about 3 weeks since, or is it a little bit more, since the Utah Jazz were playing the Oklahoma City Thunder, and a player for the Jazz, Rudy Gobert, tested positive. They found out just moments before tip-off. They canceled the game. The NBA canceled its season. The NHL canceled its season. All hell broke loose, and everything has been canceled, it seems, since then. How are you doing at this really tough time, especially with a pre-existing condition like you had?
So I went through the same cycle that so many people are going through, sort of like a weird mini grief cycle, where at first there was panic and I didn't want to accept it, in a bit of denial. And then suddenly the bargaining of like, okay, I'm going to start. Have you seen all these online business courses popping up? So
Yes.
that's just the panic of people feeling like I need to start a whole new way of life. And then I heard the most wonderful thing a few days ago. It's that right now our job is just to get through this. We are in unprecedented territory, and all we have to do is keep a roof over our head and keep ourselves safe till we get through this. And so I have just decided this is not a time when I'm going to worry about reinventing myself. This is a time when I'm going to make cookies with my kids and enjoy a bit of downtime. I'm nesting pretty much,
Right.
only because I feel like my priority is my mental health right now, and just to sort of stay safe and react to this thing. And so I'm not looking at what's 6 months down the road. I'm just looking at each day. And that is helping me, because what I don't like is seeing people online fear mongering. I don't like people making statements like the world will never be the same, because that's not, A, it's not a fact, and B, it's not something that is useful for anyone to know. It's not kind of bringing comfort to anybody. So I keep making the comedy videos just to bring comfort to people and let people know that they're not alone. And I feel like that's the best use of my time right now, and for my mental health.
Just before we wrap this up, and God, I wish we could talk longer. Wait a second. We're on social media. We can talk as long as we damn well pleased. As a matter of fact, tell the family right now, dinner, if you're making dinner, and I won't make that assumption, but you said that you were baking before, so maybe you'll be a little bit late. But we have this thing that we do at SickNotWeak. We call it the Sichter scale, which is a measure of how you're doing with depression in particular, but any mental health. 0 is the worst day imaginable, where no matter what happens, nothing can possibly bring you joy because you are so deep in the hole. And 10 is that mentally healthiest that you can be. It doesn't mean that you're feeling euphoric, because if the circumstances don't suggest euphoria, then you shouldn't feel it. So it's just the ability to feel that way. So what are you today on the Sichter scale?
I change hour by hour. I will say that for most of the day, I'm an 8, and then there's an hour or two where I'm a 4. And I'm just letting that happen, letting it ride out.
You have offered so many bits of advice that you have no idea that you even offered. The idea of letting it ride out is so important for people that start to believe that, oh my gosh, I'm never going to get better. I'm a 4. I was an 8 before. Now I'm a 4. It's going to be with me the rest of the day and then tomorrow. And oh my gosh, I'm relapsing. And in my case, oh my gosh, my medication isn't working. That kind of cycle you can beat, because you can decide not to let it take you down, but it takes a lot of work, and you have put the work in and the time in. And wow, you're such a wonderful role model for people. Not that they should go and do stand-up comedy, but that they should look at you and say, wow, if she can do what she's done, if she can fight her way through this, if she can get out on stage, if she can continue living her life, then I can too. And I think that's hugely powerful.
Oh, Michael, thank you. And I feel the same way about you. Thank you.
Oh, stop. Now it just sounds like a talk show. Okay, so give us a week and then come back next week.
Awesome.
Okay, and thanks for the material. We'll go out with this was I think this was you telling your kids, or deciding it was time to get out there and change things up a bit. And by the way, the name of the book is Depression, the Comedy. And when we did an event together, I guess it was about a year ago now, I read that book, and it's terrific. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care.
All right. Let's see Jessica Holmes in what there we go.
It's been magical. Stop staring at me! I decided to pull a Mrs. Doubtfire and started coming downstairs every day as a different character. Don't move. This is the police. The fun police. Hello, children. Do not be afraid. It is moi, Celine Dion. I'm going to sing to you 12 hours of lullabies. Kids, you're just in time for the dance class. Come on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm your new stepmother. I don't do dogs and I don't do hugs. Now, which one of you kids has a light? And they all lived happily ever after. Yay! Just, trapped in each other.
Oh my gosh. That is so funny. And you know what tomorrow we'll do, because we didn't even take much of your Celine Dion. It is classic Jessica Holmes, making me smile. And, sometimes that's what you need. And you really know, if you're watching right now and you just saw Jessica Holmes being super funny, if you didn't find it funny, meaning if you just don't feel like you can laugh, that's when I think that you need to, without a doubt, you need to look at your mental health and say, am I okay? Okay, I'm just going to ask Phil, who's next up? Because we've been juggling because of technical issues. Oh my gosh, my buddy, Brett Wilson joins us. Entrepreneur, philanthropist, one of the smartest guys I know, Dragon's Den, all of that. How are you, Brett?
I'm not one of the smartest guys you know. You must know more than 3 people.
No, actually, I try to surround myself with idiots. So you are one of the smartest guys I know. You're just less of an idiot than other guys.
Well, first of all, I want to thank Tiger King for making me feel normal. I think, and the other thing is, by the way, a little hats off to Jessica. I had the privilege of opening with her in front of 9,000 people twice in one day for Oprah. So we were the beginning act, so to speak, in the morning and in the afternoon. And then Oprah brought on her Tony Robbins and Deepak Chopra and some minister and some friend, whatever. But we were both crowd pleasers, warmer-uppers. I was given 9 minutes. Jessica got 10, I think, but had a real privilege of watching and working with her. And then we co-hosted an event in Calgary a number of years ago in support of a women's cancer issue. So hats off to Jessica. And second, Khush, take notes. I need all the help you can give me.
Okay, that's Khush Amaria, the doctor. She will be joining us after this. So I will ask you, before you and I wrap up, a couple of questions that you can have for the good doctor. And who doesn't want a free therapy session? Clearly having technical difficulties, which means that, let's see, how do I phrase this? The technology is not 100% there. So we're doing our best to do this. And I guess the thing that makes me feel a lot better is that I guess it was Phil who's kind of putting all this together for us, said, I saw Jimmy Kimmel's, his social media broadcast, and it sucked technically. So that makes me feel a little bit better. All right, Brett, let's go back to where we were with you, me grilling you with intensely hard questions. You mentioned one of your charities is adolescent mental health. Why?
Whoa, there's an hour's conversation. Basically, our family's probably exposed in many different ways. I have been with a child who overdosed. I've been with a child who lived with an eating disorder. I myself have bipolar disorder, and I absolutely acknowledge that depression probably ended my marriage 20 years ago. And so as we started looking at causes for the work that I do in the summer, we got something we call the garden party. It's an event I do at my house, and I have a large side yard. So we have about 1,200 people come. And Brett Kissel, the musician, I know you know him, is the lead on that. And it's now called the Brett Garden Party. And I let him go first in the naming. And we're very successful at bringing people together. And I pay for the party, people pay for the charity. So we raise quite a bit of money, usually $500,000 to $750,000 every summer. And we divide it amongst a dozen different causes, from First Nations, youth causes, to eating disorders, to the Calgary Counseling Center, to various crisis programs. And we tend to rotate. So there's about 8 or 10 that stay in for 2 or 3 years, and we always bring in new names and bring people out. My goal when I'm doing charity work is fundraising is an outcome of good awareness raising. So what we're focused on is raising awareness, bringing people to the cause. We always have people from the causes at the parties, at the events. We circulate information, contact, connections, links, whatnot. And again, try and raise the profile of the causes so that money will flow. And it's gone well.
You mentioned that 20 years ago that depression likely was the cause of, or maybe one of the causes of, the end of your marriage. That was 20 years ago. How has depression, is it still with you? Is it hanging in there with you? How are you doing today?
Well, today is a little different than even a few months ago, but we'll come back to that. So for 20 years, I worked with exercise, I worked with energy healers, I worked with supplements, but I avoided prescriptions. So I've been fortunate that I've never gone down that path, but fairly aggressive in terms of other alternative modalities, in particular supplements, and focusing on brain chemistry. And for the most part, it's worked. I've been, I think some people would say who are close to me, I can be a little grumpy, I can be a little snippy, I can be a little pushy. But historically, for the last 20 years, I get up in the morning looking forward to the day. I will acknowledge in the last month, it's gotten tough. It's gotten real tough. And it's gotten tough because I'm a landlord and I'm a tenant. I am a lender and I'm a borrower. And I'm on both sides of all sorts of problems. I have tenants who don't want to pay. I have mortgages that I have to pay. I've got landlords who are hammering on me to get payments, and I've got businesses that have shut down. Myself and a few of the businesses I'm involved with have had to terminate over 300 people in the last 2 weeks. And I find degrees of anxiety, and I hate using the word depression. I don't know why. I like to think I'm above it, but within bipolar, there's a low side, and I'm in the low side right now. And I just refreshed a relationship that was 15 years old in terms of a psychologist, and we've had a couple of meetings, and I'm just trying to look at what I can do differently to make my day and the day of my family and the day of my staff. Obviously, we're social distance, but I can still support them, and that's a big thing for me, is trying to figure out how I can be the best that I want to be, the best that I can be. I acknowledge I'm sick, but damn, I'm not weak.
No, and I don't know you as well as I'd like to know you. But I think that it's pretty obvious from the tone of your voice that this is a really, really tough time for you. But as I was saying to Jessica, what the best people to break the stigma around mental illness, I hate using that word because it's so overused, though, are really strong people. A guy like, people associate you with strength in business, strength in life, strength in everything. And if you can be affected by something like depression, then people can look at themselves and go, well, hey, you know what? Maybe I'm not weak. If Brent Wilson can talk about it, maybe I can talk about it too. I think it's hugely powerful.
Well, I've certainly on stage said a number of times that, yes, I have bipolar disorder. It's a mild form, but it's real. I think right now I'm on the downside, trying to look back up in terms of how that affects people. And I got to tell you that I think the words anxiety and depression resonate for so many people right now, given that we're in unprecedented, and I hate that word, but unprecedented times in terms of what we're facing globally. But I've often said, and going back to on stage, yes, I have mental health issues. I hate the word mental illness. I'll acknowledge I have a mental health issue. But I've often said, if you choose to judge me because I have a mental health challenge, the shame is entirely on you, because I'm not taking it. I got work to do, and I don't need your judgment.
You got a life to live, and that's, I was said to Jessica before, wow, it's like you're in my head, and, it's like you're in my head. Although you did come to hear me speak once in Calgary.
Absolutely.
I think I was at Shell Oil, and I think you're stealing my material, because that sounded a lot like the stuff I was throwing out there, Wilson. Oh my gosh. You know why?
Happy to share it.
You know what, though? Why it sounds like something that I would say? Because as I said, we all feel this in many ways in the same way. Here's a question that we got on Facebook for you. It said, any advice for the spouse of somebody suffering from depression?
No. Communication. And I go back to, as I shared, my marriage failed 20 odd years ago. And I think, again, my wife at the time had her own issues, but we both went into a caves. And you can't support each other from across the hall caves. I mean, we shared a house, we shared a room, but we didn't share a life. And I think it starts with communication and trying to be honest and open. You know, I'm struggling in terms of I haven't had this kind of conversation with anybody other than you and one friend, and of course a psychologist who's plugging away with me right now. And I'm not ashamed of it, but I just don't choose to be as open as I should be. So going back to spouses and couples and best friends even, the communication tools are there. Open your mouth. Tell people how you're thinking, how you're feeling, and maybe tell them how you'd like to feel and how you'd like to be.
You know, I'm going to try something on the fly here, which we hadn't planned for, but I want you to be able to ask Dr. Amaria Khush, who is a clinical psychologist. Also, she works, she's a top person at a company called Mind Beacon, and I have some friends there, and that's how I ended up meeting Khush. So we may not be able to see Khush right away, but Khush, hey, thanks for hanging in there. Thanks for hanging in, dialing us back up through our technical problems. How you doing, Khush? Oh, where are you, Khush? Okay, we're gonna get her for sure. Back to what you and I were discussing. What has COVID-19 done to our planet? I think that it's taken, mental health and mental health issues. And I love the fact that you said, I don't like mental illness, the words. They're terrible words together. They make no sense. But I think that whatever you call it, it's been like tenfolded increased. There's so many people that I've heard from in the last couple of weeks who say, I never thought about this before, but I'm thinking about it now. And it's like people are learning what it was guys like you and experienced all those years. They're learning it now because there's a whole lot of depression and anxiety and OCD and panic out there.
Well, we're being asked to isolate, which is, I think, probably the opposite of the human condition. We're generally social creatures. We're generally people, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. I've got introverted friends who love walking the streets of Calgary in their own space, in their own head, but they're still out, they're still mingling. And now we've been asked to stay indoors. We've been asked to stay home. People are doing a little bit of walking, but sometimes they're taking some grief for that. My life is very tightly between an office we're allowed to operate, but I've never washed my hands more. I've never kept a hockey stick apart more than my life. And we're managing, but it's just the way that the world, and of course we've got social media and some leaders I'm underwhelmed with some of our leadership, and I'm certainly disappointed in some of the extremes that we see on social media and the world is ending sort of memes that occur. We know there'll be an end. We know there'll be an end to this. Whether it was the 6 years of the Spanish flu in the 1300s where they had no health care. We've figured it out. We'll manage, whether it's masks, whether it's hand washing, whether it's social distance, and whether it's a vaccine that's created that takes care of those who choose to vaccinate. We will get through it. The problem right now is we all go into our caves. We're all isolated. And certainly some people have used the tools of, whether it's Zoom or just FaceTime and connecting with family and friends, but you still have to be yourself. And that time can be challenging. I love being alone because I'm never lonely. I've always got stuff to do. But I'm surprised at how frustrated I am at the amount of alone that I'm forced into.
Well, alone is great when you choose to be alone, but it's not any of our choice right now. And, right. I kind of think that there's a weird synergy between what we have to do now, social distancing, isolation, quarantine. And one of the symptoms that I always feel with depression, one of the first things I feel like I want to do is to retreat, is to go and find a place where I can be on my own. And that becomes just an easier place to be. But if it's thrust upon you, it's really bad and really challenging as to how to manage it. And a lot of people are managing it for the first time.
Yeah, I start my day, and for the first time in 20 years, I have no events, no talks, very few meetings. I have no trips, no travel. I have nothing on my calendar. And so I start the day, and it's phone calls. It's tying and connecting with the people I'm doing business with, and then we start solving problems, because I'm involved with a lot of entrepreneurs. We're running oil companies. I'm building a restaurant in downtown Calgary right now. I'm finishing a power plant in central Alberta. My life didn't stop. My businesses didn't grind to a halt. Some did. You know, I got an amazing company out of Dragon's Den called Hilberg and Burke. And we've grown from 100,000 in sales to 15 or 20 million over the course of 10 years. This is jewelry out of Regina, Saskatchewan, the hotbed of Canadian jewelry manufacturing. But it's an amazing entrepreneur, an amazing story. We're down to 3 people. We had to let go 175 people. And now a life's work for one woman has now been put on ice. Now, will we start again? Will we have a running start? Well, I don't know about running. Will we have a jogging start? Well, I don't know. Will we walk a little faster than the first time? For sure, because we've got the people, we've got the know-how, we've got the resources. But it's so frustrating for me as a coach, advisor, partner, mentor to this business, going, well, I don't really know when it's going to come around again. I don't know what. Look, I'm guessing mid-June. If someone was to ask me, I think we'll start to see some relaxation of the tightness, if whatever that is, by mid-June. If I'm wrong by a month, so what? But it's not years, it's not 8 months, it's 2 or 3 or 4 months. But that's still an eternity for so many people who are at home without jobs, waiting for a government check now, and then unsure of the future, unsure of education, unsure of family, unsure of, I haven't seen my grandsons in 2 months or 2 weeks, and I don't know when I'll see them again. FaceTime's one thing, but being able to pick them up and carry them and tickle them, I miss that.
Okay, I'm not going to lie to you. That was not the best thing that we can do. Technically, the whole thing crashed. We tried to salvage whatever we can. Apologies to Khush Amaria, the psychologist who's with Mind Beacon. We'll bring her back next week. I think she'll probably have recovered by then, and I think maybe she won't be quite as mad at us by then. Actually, she was perfectly gracious about it. I thought Jessica Holmes was amazing. What a great spokesperson for somebody who struggled with depression. Man, she is awesome. And W. Brett Wilson, just the tone of his voice is something that I'll walk away with thinking, wow, there's a guy who is phenomenally successful, and right now he sounds like he's really struggling. We'll get him back as well. Coming up tomorrow on the show, got to have Sean Cullen back. We're trying to get him to do something every day, and he said, well, give me some tips on what you think you want me to talk about. All right, Sean Cullen, we want you to comment on this. Roll it, Phil.
COVID-19. COVID-19. I blow the wind of God. The wind of God on you. On you. You are destroyed forever. You are destroyed forever. And you will never be back. And you'll never be back. Thank you, our God. Thank you, our God. Let it happen. Let it happen. Cause it to happen. Cause it to happen.
Man, if you're a comedian, that's low-hanging fruit is what it is. So that's tomorrow on this show. And again, apologies for all the technical issues that we had, but we'll be back tomorrow. I was going to say stronger than today, but that wouldn't be that much of a difficult climb to get to. And a reminder that what it says on my shirt is really the words of the day: fight for your happiness. It's a really tough time for a lot of people, including 2 that we had on today's show. And you got to commit to it. You got to say, I will fight this no matter what. I will keep searching for something that will allow me to feel better. That's what this show is all about. So I will see you tomorrow. Thanks to Jansen for giving us the chance to do this. And I promise you we'll do it better tomorrow. See you then.